Okay.
We're alive.
Hello and welcome to Moreness-Culture. Good morning, Syl. Good morning, Rain, and good morning to everyone who is watching us live and will watch us recorded. Assuming that Joseph and Norma would be there. So thank you so much. And Joseph, by the way, you are my new Facebook friend. Welcome to Beena's World. So thank
There
you
you
so much for
go.
being here.
There you go.
Yes.
Most wonderful. And also, by the way,
Yes.
when
Yes.
on Facebook, when you have a message from somebody, it comes up on the side, right, and it shows they active or whatever. And
Yes.
if you hover your mouse there, it will tell you how they reacted to your last message. So Joseph messaged me, and just a continuation of what we were talking about yesterday about being coarse and rough. And he had a nice comment. He shared about his understanding between the difference between coarse and rough, and that's how I understood it too. And it was nice to have that overlap, right? So that's exactly how I perceived it.
Yes.
But my response, which I said, yes, this is exactly how I saw it, is great. My response shows that Joseph's reaction to it was the little sad face with a little tear. I've got to assume that this is a mistake somewhere. So when
Oh.
Joseph comes on, I've got to ask him. I hope I didn't make you sad.
Yes,
I
because
was
obviously.
celebrating. I was celebrating um, your comment to me. Your message. So it's wonderful.
Oh
It was
yes, oh
very
yes,
cool.
yes, yes. Okay, this
Celebrate.
reminds me of, okay, I can make it my thought of the day. That yesterday I was just scrolling through my Instagram and I saw someone was saying that, okay, why I hate text. This is how that video, the short video started, and he says that because if I want to say that, okay, I really love you, and then he says that I really love you, I really love you, I really
Oh,
love you, and then he
so
was
he
saying
hates
it.
when people say really rather than just I
Yeah.
love you.
No,
Yeah.
no, he was
Oh,
what he
oh,
was explaining is he said it in at least 15 different ways by
oh.
emphasizing I really
Ah,
love and you.
ah,
Different
ah, ah,
emphasis,
ah,
different,
ah.
and he says that this is we can't do in the text messages. So what he was saying that, okay, that's why I don't like text messages. But of course
You,
you can't remedy this in
yeah,
this
yeah.
digital world. Predominantly, of course, like, okay,
You
but
can do
yeah.
it.
Okay, yes, so but we cannot avoid text messaging. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
have what we have to do is to pay attention to that how we are doing it and putting more effort and a bit more energy by make it obvious till it becomes obvious for the other person. And this is
Yeah.
the key. This is the key from the way of impeccability also, that you make it, you have to make the obvious really obvious, because it is not going to be obvious until you really make it obvious. So what I'm saying that, okay,
Exactly.
what happened yesterday with you and Joseph, that, okay, he might be, okay, I'm just assuming that it was an accident. Like, okay, it just got some
Yeah,
in way
yeah,
that's a sad face.
yeah.
Of course, it could be deliberate, but we assume that it was not. And
Right.
then
Oh, I
say
hope
that, okay,
so.
yes, it could create confusions if a person,
Yeah.
like, okay, you would not be in that situation. And then an unknown person who are not really aware of the
Yeah.
haphazardness of the communication. No, so he's sad, so you don't like it, or whatever. So they could assume anything, anything. So
Yeah.
that's why communication is a haphazard business, and that is why deliberateness is the key, is the real magic in life. When
Oh
we
yeah. Oh
deliberately
yeah.
set
Oh yeah.
intents,
Oh yeah.
this is what actually the magic is. Of course, you can make it black, white, gray, or any color, or technical, whatever you want to. Magic
Yeah.
is magic. Of course, the intent, what really counts. But what is behind intent? Deliberateness. Otherwise, we
Oh yeah.
say things
Oh yeah.
randomly,
Oh yeah.
where people just say things
It's the
and
core criteria to intent is deliberateness.
exactly, exactly, exactly. And this is
Crucial.
what the real understanding for me, because whenever I try to understand something, Syl give me this magic wand of paying attention to the intent. And when I deliberately pay attention to intent and try to understand the intent, then the superfluousness of the communication gets really out of the window, because then you
Oh yeah.
start paying
Oh
attention
yeah.
to the core and the essence of it. And
Oh
then
yeah.
I get value. No matter what the other person is doing, I am getting value. and it changes my life in many ways. So this was my thought of the day. Pay attention to and of course when you are we invest energy no matter what, even
Yeah.
if we are deliberate or not, we're still investing energy. And when we are doing it, why not just doing it more thoroughly?
Yeah.
It
All
is
right.
not
So
going to
for
harm
for
us or they
uh,
are going to cause.
oh, go ahead. Sorry, I thought you're done.
No, no, it
Say
was
your last
done.
sentence again.
It was just a
Oh,
lagging.
oh,
So yeah, I
ah,
was just saying,
ah.
yes, please,
Um,
please continue.
yeah. So for your internet guy or girl, was it a guy or a girl? Person. Your internet
Guy,
person.
guy.
Uh, a guy. All right. So internet guy was I really love you. Okay, and all the different ways to say it. You can't say it on in text. You can't say it. Well, you can depending on the text platform. But let me just do it on Messenger because that's used and a lot of the conventions apply to other ones as well. All
Still,
right.
it
So
was
I
not for
want.
you. Still, you were not
I
included.
know. I
You
know.
were
I
not
know.
included.
I know, but I'm going to share a basic messaging primer, and it's primer, not primer. It's got one M, not primer. That
Yeah.
would have
Okay.
two M's. All right. So a primer
Okay.
on text messaging, how you can emphasize. So look, now pay attention here, right? Oh, I'm a screen
Yes.
share. I'm a screen share. I'm a screen share so that you can see. And this time I must share the whole screen. I suppose I could just share this one. All right. And share. Okay, so now pay attention to my typing because you'll see something. So I'm going to say I, and then I want to emphasize, I really love you. Okay, so watch. I really love you. All right. So I'll put the U in capital also, just for extra emphasis. Yes.
Okay. Still, before you continue,
Exclamation. There we go.
so
What?
sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you, but we are live on Instagram also because I don't
Ah,
see.
right. I forgot to start it. Ah, my bad, my bad,
Yes.
my bad. I've got to click start there. Where is this now? Where is this now? It's right next door. Yeah. Sorry. And I gotta go live. Oh, oh, for some reason it's not. You see, it's I'm not able to click it. Uh, uh, let's see. Oh, I know what I didn't do. I didn't copy this. And all right. Oh, one second. I'll fix it real quick. I forgot to put the stream key into IG. You've got to manually put it in. It doesn't do it automatically. And then once that's there, then go live. Thank you. I guess I have to refresh this. Dear, oh dear. I suppose I have to go live all over again. Oh dear. Are you seeing all of this or not? What I'm doing?
No,
Beena?
I
Or do you
was.
just see the
No,
Facebook window?
I was. Yeah, I was responding to like making just a welcome message on YouTube,
Ah,
and I'm
ah,
going
ah,
on.
all right. I just have to start the IG all over again. So I forgot to connect it. Oh well. Copy dashboard. Gets fiddly sometimes.
Yes.
There we go. All right. It won't be too long. Now let's see if it's working. I'm not sure if I need to go the whole thing again. Yeah, see, I think I have to do it with the with Zoom, start. Oh
Yes,
no,
we are.
there it is. Go live. Okay, brilliant. We are live on IG. All right, back to my explanation. So now look at how I've typed here, right? And I want to say, I really love you. I want to emphasize really and you. Okay. So look at the typing. Right? I put underscore next to really on either side. Love, I put in capital L, which just, all right, since we're talking about emphasis, capital L love is a little different. And you also are capitalized because you are important to me, right? You're extra important. But I've also put asterisk, shift 8, in other words, on either side of you. Now look at what it does when you hit enter. See, I really love you, really as in italics, and you as in bold. So be aware, in Messenger, you can emphasize underscore on either side of a word, makes it italicized, and the asterisk and the star, right, when you go shift 8, on either side of the word puts it into bold. See? See, you is bolded. See? So now, Mr. IG, I have said, I really love you. Two different emphases. I could have asked, italics on you as well, or bold, or both even, right? So just something to be aware of, because I really missed when I started this texting. I really missed this, and it wasn't available. It came later because I knew it from other things and just from writing in general, and I really missed that emphasis. And then they brought it in. Facebook brought it about and came, right? So it was very cool. So just so you know that, right, that you can use emphasis. You can, at least with
Thank you
italics.
so much. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for ruining the story I was sharing. It was not. You were not included. Huh.
Well, the whole story was that you can't do the syntax, but his premise is flawed.
Still,
You
it
can
was
do
not
it.
as a definite. No, the
Oh.
real emphasis was not on that. It was about the vagueness of text normally we have. Of course, the intent
No.
behind that is has to be like, okay, be more thorough. Seriously, but it is good. Yes, it is good.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is good to be aware
Well,
that yes,
yeah,
okay, yes, you
yeah,
can.
yeah,
We
yeah,
assume so
yeah,
many
yeah,
things,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we just take it like on their
yeah.
face value that okay, oh, this is how, and it is going to pass on.
Norma's
But
here.
no,
Norma's here. Norma's here. See, I was talking about I really love you. See, there we go. It applies to Norma.
oh
So see,
yes.
Norma, there we go. All that emphasis just for you. Hello, Norma. Hello, Norma. Love you, Norma.
So this was
Really love you,
before
Norma. Yes.
beside I was just teasing you, Syl. No, it was
Yeah,
it
I
was
know.
it was
I know.
all appropriate and of course
Yeah.
much needed that to pay attention. Yes.
Okay, so there is something else because you said in your story, you said about the magic of intent. And I want to share something
Yes.
else, right? Intent is really peculiar, particularly when intent couples really strong feeling. Yes? If you type, I really love you, and you just type it, I really love you. Doesn't matter if you want to say, I really love you. If you don't mean it, it doesn't quite connect the same way. If you do mean it, if you have very strong emotion and intent with whatever you write, whether it's I love you or anything, that intent and that emotion does carry over through the medium, through writing, through somebody, you send them a letter, typing, chat, doesn't matter. It does connect and communicate. This is the magic of poetry. Magical poetry, oh, pleasure, Norma. Poetry, you feeling what the poet feels, the artist. That's what makes good art, is because there's so much emotion that goes into it. It's not technically perfect and all that. Look at the difference, say, between Rembrandt and Van Gogh. Van Gogh's painting style is fairly crude, but Van Gogh was exceptionally emotional. He felt incredibly strongly, right? And that is, you feel it in his art. It's what makes Van Gogh great. Yeah. So it's not just technical proficiency, it is the emotion that goes into it. This carries over in the medium. And that's very important, even with typing. Yes. Somebody's going to read your I really love you, even if you don't use italics and bold, you don't use underscore and asterisk, right? Doesn't matter. If you mean it, it carries through, right? So
Yes.
be aware that intent transcends everything in a medium, right?
Oh
And of
yes.
course,
Yes.
we can know that we love somebody, but we might not feel it so deeply in that motion, in that a moment, right? You may feel it in a very broad, general way, and may feel it strongly even. But to have it communicate has to be intense. And that's not always something you can't generate that it happens of its own accord, right? This is what
Not
makes.
getting it. Sorry, say it again.
So to have that intensity of emotion where it carries across through the medium, you need intensity of emotion and intent. And that's hard to do deliberately. It comes. Yeah. It comes. It's almost external. Like when you write your poems and you're really feeling it, you're not trying to feel it, it just happens, right, Beena?
I'm just okay. What is the part I'm paying attention to that? When we have strong feelings towards something or someone, it is like it is there. I like this, I love this, and or I love someone like deeply, passionately, hopelessly, whatever you want to say that. But communicating it is not always going to be the same because the intensity goes up and down, and we get like distracted. We have other things, and we pay attention to our attention moves here and there, and of course, it is not going to communicate it well. But it doesn't mean that okay, I don't have that. So this is
Right. So I'm just saying that, if you're trying
puzzling.
to communicate your feelings via this magic that I'm talking about, you really need to feel it very intensely, is what I'm saying. And it's hard to do that deliberately. It just happens. It's a peculiar thing that we can't always.
So,
It's possible, but it's
so
difficult. Yeah.
so after that, what we can rely on is trust. So
Correct.
because if I love something like deeply, passionately, I really love it or love someone, and of course it is not going to be communicated all the time exactly the way I feel. That intensity is not going to be communicated or passed on through that person. But then they have to have that trust. Or if I'm at the receiving end, I need to have that trust that okay, if the person is a genuine person or this thing
Right. And
is
also, yes, to go along with that trust, pattern, consistency,
yes,
right?
yes,
I mean,
yes.
if I'm interacting with you
Words
day in,
can
day
lie.
out, I mean, I don't have to trust what I get from Beena or Norma. I know because I'm interacting daily and I get your vibe. I feel you. There's pattern to it. There's a rhythm to it.
Patterns never lie. Yes, yes,
Exactly, exactly,
yes.
exactly. And
Okay,
it's a
okay.
consistency, and
Yes,
that's very important. Yeah. So when we look at all the factors, it really matters. All right.
yes.
Brilliant. Veena, will you please read this?
You are going
We're
to read
finishing.
today again. You
Oh,
are
I want
going
to
to
make
read
coffee. My.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
Will you read just until I made the
Yes,
coffee, and then I'll
yes,
I'll
yes.
carry on. All right. All right.
Okay.
Norma, we need you to come read. We need you to come read.
Okay.
We shall contract out. We shall contract out here to Norma, right?
Yes. The rule was corroborated by special consensus among the component concepts forming the rule. The one that was indispensable for explaining it was the idea that the rule was corroborated by spatial consensus. All the other components concepts were insufficient by themselves for explaining the meaning of the rule. Juan made it very clear that an ally was not bestowed on a sorcerer, but that a sorcerer learned to manipulate the ally through the process of corroborating its rule. The complete learning process involved verification of the rule in non-ordinary reality as well as in ordinary reality. Yet the crucial facet of Don Juan's teachings was corroboration of the rule in a pragmatic and experimental manner in the context of what one perceived as being the component elements of non-ordinary reality. But those component elements were not subject to ordinary consensus. And if one was incapable of obtaining agreement on their existence, their perceived realness would have been only an illusion, as a man would have to be by himself if in non-ordinary reality. By reason of his solitariness, whatever he perceived would have to be idiosyncratic. 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 Okay. Yes, the
You got it. You
solitariness
got it.
and yes, I'm trying. Okay, thank you. The solitariness and the idiosyncrasies were a consequence of the assumed fact that no fellow man could give one ordinary consensus on one's perceptions. At this point, Don Juan brought in the most important constituent part of his teaching. He provided me with a special consensus on the actions and the elements I have perceived in non-ordinary reality. Actions and elements agreement that were built, sorry, actions and elements that were believed to corroborate the rule. In Don Juan's teaching, a special consensus meant tacit, well, okay,
Tacit. Tacit,
yeah,
yes.
tacit or implicit agreement on the component element of non-ordinary reality, which he,
Tacit,
in his
tacit here,
capacity,
Beena. It
yes,
means specifically saying so rather than implying it.
mhm,
Right?
okay, okay, consistent, tacit, okay, or implicit agreement on the component element of non-ordinary reality, which he, in his capacity as teacher, gave me as the apprentice of his knowledge. This special consensus was not in any way fraudulent or spurious, okay,
Yep. Yep.
such as the one two persons might give each other in describing the component elements of their individual dream.
Okay. Okay. So let's go into this a little bit because it is fairly important. Yes, Carlos is intellectualizing and academizing, not academizing. Oh, I'm missing my word here. Anyway, he's making it all fancy, right?
Mhm.
Academizing. That's the word I was looking for. Anyway, and what he's talking about this consensus and corroboration, tacit and implicit. So Carlos goes and he takes the smoking mixture and he transforms into a crow. Yeah.
Mm,
Now, all right.
yes.
In the crow example, isn't the best example here because there's other factors involved, which he's going to talk about.
Mm,
But for example, right? When Carlos has the experience of the crow, and afterwards Don Juan says, let's assume that Carlos came back and said, "Oh, I turned into a crow," and Don Juan says, "Yeah, that happened to me also." That's
mm,
spurious corroboration.
mm.
Yeah, because if I'm Carlos, I don't know if Don Juan is just saying that or if it really was so. Yeah.
Oh.
However, however, that's if I shared first. However, if Don Juan says to me, you know what happened when I went under this, I turned into a crow. And I'm like, holy moly, that's what happened to me. Now, internally, Don Juan hasn't heard my explanation of what happened to me. He doesn't know. He's just saying I turned into a crow. And I have had the experience of turning into a crow. Him saying it happened to him corroborates externally the fact that
Mm,
we each turned into crows separately and individually. See?
mm.
And that turning into a crow is part of the process and the procedure. So there's very subtle nuances to this corroboration here, right? That Carlos is saying in all the technical language. But that's really about it, that it is something that you can trust because you verifying it with your own experience. You're not trusting Don Juan's word, right?
Yes.
You see, the one way you have to trust his word, and the other way you trusting it with experience. Now, Don Juan won't be able to take your word for it. Won't be corroboration for him because he shared first, right? But
Mm,
it doesn't. It's not critical here because Don Juan has had this experience with other apprentices and all that, so and he can judge by the reaction when he says, "Oh," and then you can see on somebody's features, "Wow, oh, that happened to me too." So there are other ways which you can get the corroboration that's not based on just believing somebody, right?
mm.
Yeah. So that's the key here. That's the key. That the corroboration cannot just be based on taking somebody's word for it. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Wow.
That's very key. Yeah. That's very key. Right. And this independent or I forget Carlos uses another word here, the verification. it has to be in some way that it proves it, yeah. And of course,
Hmm.
I mean, the person could just be taking a wild guess, of course, at what happened to you. But the odds of them guessing correctly are very low. So that's fairly reliable corroboration if they independently state what happened to them. Now, let's say, Beena, you and I undertook some such experience,
Hmm.
and we don't, and we want to have this corroboration, but then we say, well, but you go first. No, you go first, because of course, coming second is you or at least the order of things determines who's
Having
trusting
some
who.
advantage. Yes.
Correct, correct. But there is a way around that. Because I
Hmm.
could say, okay, write it on a piece of paper. I write it on a piece of paper, just one, and we turn the paper upside down and we put it to the middle of the table. And then when we've both written our thing on the paper, we turn them over simultaneously and read what's written there. Now I
Hmm.
know that what you're saying is not affected or influenced by what I said, and vice versa. So you can have that corroboration independently, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
All you've got to do is write it down and of course, that's why I said you want to write it down on the paper where you see the person writing it down, yeah,
Hmm.
and you see the paper they wrote it down on, not like Muhammad Ali. He always used to predict the round or that he had the knockout in, right? And then afterwards he'd pull out the little note from his shoe. But he probably had a note in his glove for the one round and the other glove for the so he was always correct.
Could
All
be.
right.
But his repo as a sportsman, as an athlete, was very good. So okay,
Right, right,
one
right,
can assume
right,
also.
right.
Yes.
But I mean, he was cheeky as well. And, when he
Oh,
said that,
he was
very
very, yes.
cheeky. Right. So he
Very
could
much.
quite easily have, been doing it just out of mischief. And
Yes,
so,
he could do that, but as long as
correct,
okay, as
correct,
far as
right,
I know him, he was a very
correct,
straightforward person
correct,
also.
correct, correct.
So
But
yes,
I'm
beside his
making
cheekiness,
right,
yes,
right. I'm making the
keeping the
point
margin.
that when it comes to writing it down, you want to see what the person's written it on.
Oh
Let's
yes,
assume
oh
you're in a
exactly.
situation where you don't trust the other person. That where a
Yes.
true scientist will say, yeah, well, it's like me pulling up a file to do it, and showing you over Zoom. I could
And
have written 6 dozen different things, and you see, so
oh
yeah,
yes, okay. So what you have in your background as your background today, the picture,
yeah.
what it is, what it is.
I guess it's a dragonfly by the
Okay,
cactus there in the desert. Yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah.
Why
Very
I'm
big,
asking
very
because I
big
know what it
dragonfly.
is. Okay,
Oh,
I
right.
know what it is, but I was asking because
Yeah, yeah.
um, about sunset exactly when sun was setting down, I was walking on the roof terrace, and it's a very long one, and one corner I saw some weeds grown up, and I saw something there, and they were dragonfly. And I saw, oh,
Wow.
one, and then I saw two, and then I said, no, there are more. And I found out that they were resting there, they coming out like, okay, now it's sunset, so they were resting. And I saw six were just hanging still with the leaves, and one was just settling in. And then I saw more. So this is very interesting. I saw your background
Wow.
today, and I saw them exactly, and they were resting there. And
Wow.
of course, I changed
Wow.
my way that okay, no, I don't want to disturb them. But they were not sleeping yet. I
Yeah.
know, but at least like they were settling in. And yes, okay. And this was the first time I saw a mini colony of dragonflies. Okay,
Wow.
um, I saw the butterflies colony, the very much. So I used to sit there and I have seen hundreds of butterflies in just one small tiny cave of bushes. But today I saw dragonflies also.
I was just shouting thank you to Amazon, but
Oh
I
yes,
muted. I
yes,
remembered. I remembered.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Norma says they're quite rare now, dragonflies. Yeah. Yeah.
Norma, I just saw a small colony there,
Yeah.
really,
So they're
and
coming
I
back.
was
They're
feeling
coming back. Yeah.
yes, and it was very interesting to see to watch them, really.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. Which likely means
But
we're going to have some connection from Donna.
ex-
Because Donna had very
uh,
magical Moreness experiences, connections to dragonflies. It's very
Yes.
connected to her. So yeah, hopefully we'll
Yes.
see Donna
But
soon then.
but also with Don Juan, see,
Yeah,
just doing
yeah,
this before doing this, few hours before that, I saw them, and of course I like them, so I was paying attention,
yeah.
and it was unusual also to see them that just nesting, like, okay, yeah, I don't know what is the word for that. They have that, okay, more than one, like six I
Yeah,
saw, I
nesting,
count.
yeah, or
Yeah,
congregating maybe.
yeah.
No.
So, well, yeah, okay, who knows?
That's wonderful.
So
That's wonderful.
yeah, so connectivity
That's
again,
wonderful.
again. So Don Juan, thank you.
Yeah.
I
I
see
feel
you.
no, yeah. I feel Norma has dragonfly spirit to her. Do you see
Oh,
a picture, image of Norma? You see now, like contemporary picture. Don't you
okay.
think? Don't you
Yes.
think Norma has
Yes.
dragonflyness to her?
Yes. 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 Beautiful.
Imbibe
Beautiful.
that
Beautiful.
spirit of dragonfly. Now I
Yes.
say now because I've been fortunate to see pictures of Norma from previous times in
Okay.
her life, right? And I didn't see it as a young woman, Norma. And the dragonflyness, there's other qualities, but the dragonflyness is a recent thing. At my humble opinion, right? So don't take too much to it. That's just me and my perception. Yeah. It's marvelous, no? It's marvelous. It's marvelous. I love your dragonflyness. It's really quite magical. Yeah, very cool. It's fun. It's fun when we see beingness, other types of beingness in our friends or in other people. It's a special thing. It's very wonderful. All right. Let's continue. Let's continue. Very cool. So this point
Now
of
it's your turn.
corroboration, though. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm
You need
sharing.
to share. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. This point of corroboration is very important, and there are techniques where we can verify, and this may come up for us, right? Being like if we were to um, maybe have a really profound experience in a dream, yeah, and it seems like
Yes.
it's a shared dream. We can say, right, what happened in the shared dream, and okay, even on the internet, you can do it on Zoom. You know, I
Oh.
can write on a piece of paper right here, right, and you can see me writing, and then you can't see what's on the side, and then when you got yours on your side, then we just turn the paper around, right? So then,
Oh
oh wow,
yes.
okay, yeah. So we did actually meet. I didn't just dream I met you and you were there. If your experience matches mine, then we really did meet in the dreams. Yeah.
Wow.
One
Yes.
of my Facebook friends had a very real dream, and I think, I think somebody else also. Well, okay. Thank you. Yes, it is a compliment, Norma. It's a very big compliment. It's a magical thing. It's really marvelous to see.
Oh yes.
Wonderful. Absolutely. Oh, very big compliment. Anyway, so a couple of my twice now, I've had friends that had very real dreams where I was a part of the dream, and
Oh wow.
we will get to share dreaming with Don Juan and Carlos later on. I don't want to give a spoiler here. So, all right, please read a bit more.
Yes.
I've got a bit more coffee to go, and then I'll read.
Yes, this is like you reminded me of the movie which was like really a big thing for me
Yeah, yeah,
when they have that some sort of injections they were using,
yeah,
injecting
yeah,
something, and they all were going into the same dream, and
yeah,
they know that, okay, what is their cue to get
yeah,
out of that
yeah,
dream, and
yeah,
what's the time, and that
yeah,
was
yeah,
deception, I guess that
yeah.
was the movie's name, and it was a
Ah, brilliant.
big,
Yeah,
it was
brilliant.
a big huge deal for me.
Oh
I
yeah, oh yeah.
love that, and you
Now
reminded me,
this
I'm going to watch it again.
There's a whole lot of movies and series and stuff. It all originates here with Carlos.
Oh wow.
That's that. You know, I mentioned this before. Carlos came up in a time and was published right in the heart and the potency 67 of the whole hippie movement, right? Now,
Hmm.
I've spoken much about the power and the influence of the hippie movement. In a way that most don't realize because they just remember the hippies and sex and drugs and rock and roll and carefreeness and basically
Hmm.
opting out of the system. And then there's a very the memory of hippies it's not really positive. Okay, they were nice people, they were happy, but they weren't very responsible, for instance, and they took drugs and they were bit libidinous and all that, and negative. But the hippie movement is what today the spiritual movement is, right? And it's a big deal today. right? I mean, it
Mm.
went New Age, and then like now, spiritual and spiritual pursuit. That was the core of the hippie movement. But the media and the establishment, the, uh, the usual the usual culture, it was so threatened by it, it went very anti this, and it picked all the negative stuff and really pushed the negative and killed and just ignored it. Of course, there were people who were indulgent and foolish, like in any new thing. There's silly people involved, but you lost the potency of it. And if you listen to the music from that time, you hear that spiritualness right there. Take Santana. Just listen to
Mm.
Santana. Yeah, a very big group that came out of that time, right? I mean, there are other groups too, but the spiritual component. This is what drove that movement, spiritual, and we're seeing the fruits of it, because it took a long time since then till now for it to get shaped and cored and connected to, and not be the messaging not to be messed up by adverse and negative propaganda and anti it, because people are threatened and all of this, right? The hippie movement was incredibly threatening. It's hard to imagine how threatened society was by it. Oh, people dropping out, nobody's going to work, our society's going to collapse. And oh my goodness, the threat level was off the charts. Unbelievable. It's a few people, for heaven's sake. Exactly, Norma. Spirituality equal truth. That was the real threat. The conservative and church mindset, there's a lot of hypocrisy involved. And you see it today even still, right? That people are they talk a good game, but when you actually look at what they are, there's racism involved. They aren't particularly charitable, etc., etc. So, and they know this. So, spirituality being truth, they don't want the awful truth about them, their hypocrisy and their shallowness. They don't want it exposed. So, spirituality is very dangerous. Yeah? And now today, there's so much stuff out there, you can find everything. So spirituality, there's tons of it out there, but there's tons on anything. So it's not emphasized. It doesn't stand out. Back in the 60s, they were on the news and TVs, and there were riots and protests and all sorts of stuff. There was a lot of stuff going on in the 60s. And so they got a lot of attention. So whatever was important to the hippies got attention, and that spirituality, that truth got attention, right? And the exposing. Why did they want to opt out of the system? Because they were anti the hypocrisy, the lies, the negativity, and all of the stuff. Now, they didn't have terms like superiority paradigm. If they had, it would have changed everything. Yeah, they didn't have the vocabulary, unfortunately, the terminology. It's very important. That's why dictionary of power is so important. But yeah, the hippie movement is incredibly influential still to this day when you see the roots. And all the things with lucid dreaming, for instance, it started with Carlos, or at least Carlos and Don Juan, right? Coming from him. I mean, it's so much more, right? Yeah, healing can be done by the spirit. All of the stuff, right? It all came into prominence, into awareness, shamanism, all of the stuff. Yeah. The influence of Carlos is amazing. It's amazing. At least Don Juan through Carlos. Yeah. Very powerful. We'll talk more about it when it comes there, right? I just want to put this into a full historical context. Especially if you don't have a connection to those times. I'm very fortunate that I came up right at the end of it, and it was a little delayed where I was. So I did get that experience, but without being a hippie, which was also fortunate. I got to see it from the outside, which was very cool. Brilliant. All right, let's continue. Let's continue. Let's continue. There's so much moreness, so much moreness to things. When you start to perceive moreness, it leads to more and more moreness. Please keep going, Beena. Please keep going.
It is coming. Just okay.
Oh,
We were at this point on one more. I think where we were, sir. Do you
I don't know.
remember?
Just read there
Oh
the
yes.
second
Okay. No,
paragraph.
no, no,
Ah,
no. I read that one.
ah.
or without a special agreement about its collaboration. Yes, I read this one. Because of its indispensability for explaining the rule, I have made the idea that the rule was corroborated by special consensus, the fourth main unit of this structural scheme. This unit, because it was basically the interplay between two individuals, was composed of one, benefactor, or the guide into the knowledge of being taught, the agent who supplied a special consensus, two, the apprentice or the subject for whom a special consensus was provided.
Yeah, I mean, like
Failure or
the
success,
Carlos, right?
yes, yes. Failure or success in achieving the operational goal of the teaching rested on
Oh,
its on this
oh,
unit.
one second, 1 second. I was scrolling and nothing happened, and then I scrolled some more, and then I think I scrolled too much. So, okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, sorry.
Failure or success in achieving the operational goal of the teachings rested on this unit. Thus, special consensus was the precarious culmination of the
Areas.
following process. A sorcerer had a distinctive feature, possession of an ally, which differentiated him from ordinary men. An ally was a power that had the special property of having a rule, and the unique characteristic of the rule was its corroboration in non-ordinary reality by means of the special consensus.
Yeah, yeah.
The benefactor. The benefactor was the agent without whom the corroboration of the rule would have been impossible. In order to provide a special consensus, he performed the two tasks of one, preparing the background for a special consensus on the corroboration of the rule, and second, guiding the special consensus. Okay. Preparing special consensus. Benefactor's first task was to set the background necessary for bringing
Beena,
for this. Yes.
well, let me read. You said you wanted me to read, and I'm ready. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'm assuming you want to eat, yes?
Yes.
Brilliant. I love it. I love it. All right. Preparing special consensus. Norma says flower power, we used to call it, yes. Now look at the power of language, Norma. When you think flower power, yes, and flower power, we also have to understand is a term that was media assigned, yes, not necessarily coming from the hippies themselves or that movement, right? And again, the term hippie, it's got such a non-cool. These were the core that drove the movement. Were spiritually incentivized individuals. So when we seek seekers of spirituality, changes the whole deal, rather than saying hippies, right? So early spiritual seekers. Well, I mean, there's been spiritual seekers throughout the ages, but in a very direct, overt way, where this was the core focus of their lives. Spiritual rather than religious. Now, of course, spirituality is part of religion also, but religion has other stuff to it as well, which tends to pull away a little bit, all the politics and all the stuff, right? Control and obedience and all that stuff, which takes away from it. But what I want to say is when you think of them as this early spiritual movement, changes the whole perception. And flower power makes it sound so hollow and shallow and kind of, feeble. When you take that same flower power, right? Power of love. Yes. I mean, Jimi Hendrix, power of love, right? Now he's got a whole song about it. Yeah. It's very, very, very important. And also, when you go even further than that, I mean, they used this language, but it's not remembered as that. It's not the name of the movement. But can you imagine, Norma? You were there in those times, yes? Can you imagine if it was instead of flower power, it was called Moreness? Whoa! Now I get it. Now I get it. Now I get it. The whole hippie movement, what drove it, not the sex and drugs and rock and roll, but the actual movement, the actual intent that they were after. They were pursuing moreness. They investigated all the different spiritual techniques and stuff. Same with Carlos, right? And with Don Juan, right? All the various things. And drugs was just one path towards spirituality. It wasn't taken for entertainment only. Of course, there were those who did it just for entertainment purposes, but the intent was spiritual. Yeah, that was what drove it. And it got it. Of course, like everything, when you get many people involved, things get diluted. But do you remember that, Norma? The power of that intent to mourners. Yeah, it wasn't said that way at the time. But if you think back now, and I say intent to mourners, does it make more sense than saying flower power? Is it a better way of describing it? I wonder if Norma was a hippie, if she was involved in that at all or not. Yeah, it's a very small percentage, so and the odds are against it. Anyway, the benefactor's first task was to set the background necessary for bringing forth special consensus on corroboration of the rule. As my teacher, Don Juan made me, one, experience other states of non-ordinary reality, which explained as being quite apart from those elicited to corroborate the rule of the allies. Two, participate with him in certain special states of ordinary reality, which he seemed to have produced himself. And three, recapitulate each experience in detail. Don Juan's task of preparing special consensus consisted of strengthening and confirming the corroboration of the rule by giving special consensus on the component elements of these new states of non-ordinary reality and on the component elements of the special states of ordinary reality. Again, we're reading through this, but let's be aware that Carlos is intellectualizing all of this. And that's why please don't ever call me an intellectual. Some people think they're saying it as a compliment, but no, this is what intellectualizing is. It's running it all around, making it sound very fancy, and you might even fool yourself to thinking it's important. What does it matter? What are you really saying? When you boil it down to what she's really saying and what has value and what is useful, nothing here really, right? It's very hard to really pull any value out of this, right? So again, let's just be aware that there's a lot of huff and puff here about very little. Yeah, I mean, Carlos is trying here to make a case that what he experienced has some objective validity. It's not just his subjective experience of a drug trip, right? That's what he's trying to say. And he's using all of this to justify that. And if you're now really getting very deep and specific and technical and scientific on it, all right, fair enough, but that's important. Now, the other states of non-ordinary reality which Don Juan made me experience were induced by the ingestion of the cactus Lophophori williamsi, commonly known as peyote. Usually the top part of the cactus was cut off and stored until it had dried, and then it was chewed and ingested. But under special circumstances, the top part was ingested while it was fresh. Ingestion, however, was not the only way to experience a state of non-ordinary reality with Lophophori williamsi. Don Juan suggested that spontaneous states of non-ordinary reality occurred under unique conditions, and he characterized them as gifts from or bestowals by the power contained in the plant. Right? So by Mescalito, in other words. Non-ordinary reality induced by Lophophori williamsi had three distinctive features. It was believed to be produced by an entity called Mescalito. It was utilizable, and three, it had component elements. Now look at Carlos squirming here and being cowardly to say, it was believed to be produced. There's no belief involved. Individuals experiencing this, if they had taken my suggestion and written down on pieces of paper what they experienced and written it out, right, and everybody shared their papers, they get to have that overlap and the similarity. It's a well-known thing. Thousands of people have experienced this. It's part of a culture, for heaven's sake. It's not part of your culture, Carlos. But there's no doubt in Don Juan and all the other people that were around, even if they weren't participating in the motote, right, the extended session. All of those, they all know it's the entity is there. They don't have to believe it. They experience it. They know it. There's no belief involved. But Carlos doesn't want to say it is so, because this goes against scientificness, right? To say it is so. I think I may have lost my connection here because my screen went blank. So I don't know if it's just my screen or if the computer's rebooting. So Beena, if you're there, well, you'll have to pull up your own file to continue. I think we just crashed here now. All right, no. Here we come back. I'm still here. All right, very good.
You're
I'm
here, but your screen
yeah.
is still black. Okay, it is coming.
Right. So yeah, it's come back now, and I don't know what this is. One time before, I had this square, and it just stays there. You see? I don't know if you can see it, but I have to move the window. This black square. It only went away when I reboot the computer, so I have to move it. But because I'm screen sharing only at window, it doesn't matter where I put it. You see it, which is pretty cool. Which is pretty cool. But I have to position it so that I can see what's going on. A little tricky, yeah, a little tricky. This is difficult now. I have to make this a bit smaller. Okay, let's go here. Too much. Come on. My whole computer's all on slow motion mode. It's overloaded, but I know what to do. Clear my cache, clear my memory up. That should help a bit. All right, I think so. See if that's better now. Yep, there we go. All right. Technical complications, but we get there. What was I saying last, Beena? About this belief to be. To me, it's just cowardly on Carlos's part, but it's part of that scientificness, right? That Mescalito is something completely magical, and in science, magic doesn't exist. In science, something like Mescalito, it cannot exist. It cannot exist, according to, well, now science has gotten a bit more sophisticated. But Carlos doesn't want to say it does exist and go against the whole convention, the whole academic institutions, right? By making this claim that it does exist. That's why he has to say it is believed to be. Yeah. But what he does bring, and through this whole lot, he is, when you read these experiences, it's very clear that, well, there's no belief. This is a real experience for him, yeah? And it's corroborated by others having, because he does at some point, I don't know if it was in this book or in future books, he does go and talk to other people about what they experienced, and they share with him and they describe Mescalito, and it's this overlap, right? It's really amazing. So he's just being, I feel, cowardly to not say it directly, because if he had, I suppose he has to at the time, but he would have turned the scientific world upside down to say, look, I got proof that magical entities exist. He didn't. He could have done that, but he didn't go that route, right? And he left it somewhat ambiguous. But I feel if he had gone this route, the culture would have changed even more, because when you really make it so clear, it becomes a new fact, and then lots of things follow on from that. But now it's only now, or 50 whatever years later, 70 years later, is the stuff starting to come where people have a more openness to this, right? And as a part of this, I guess it's probably good that it came slowly, but it could have gone a lot quicker. The majority of Americans believe in angels, but they won't believe in Mescalito. I mean, they've done many multiple studies of this where they ask people, do you believe in angels? Majority, overwhelming majority, say they believe in angels. Quite fascinating. Isn't that interesting, Beena?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, It was believed to be
Fine.
produced by an entity called Mescalito. It was utilizable. It had component elements. He's saying the same thing over and over here. Mescalito was purported to be a unique power, similar to an ally in the sense that it allowed one to transcend the boundaries of ordinary reality, but also quite different from an ally. Like an ally, Mescalito was contained in a definite plant, the cactus Lephorphori williamsi. But unlike an ally, which was merely contained in a plant, Mescalito and this plant in which it was contained were the same. The plant was the center of overt manifestations of respect, the recipient of profound veneration. Don Juan firmly believed that under certain conditions, such as a state of profound acquiescence to Mescalito, the simple act of being contiguous to the cactus would induce a state of non-ordinary reality. And that's a very, very important point. And I do believe this actually happens to Carlos at some point. He's just walking through a field with his cactus, the peyote cactus. They're very small, by the way. And he's just walking through the field, and Mescalito comes to him. So this is, this is, because it's not something you're going to eat of your own accord, really, so probably, and then how that started, maybe. That's very powerful. Very, very powerful stuff. So now, for me, I don't particularly attracted to the idea of eating it, because now I think it's like a distortion. But should I encounter that naturally like that, then I will take it as attunement and rightness. Now, I suppose attunement may lead me to take in the buttons. Okay. But that would be a very positive experience, I would imagine. But anyway, that's just me. Mescalito and this plant in which it was contained were the same. The plant was the center of overt manifestations of respect, the recipient of profound veneration. Don Juan firmly believed that under certain conditions, such as a state of profound acquiescence to Mescalito, being fully open, in other words, the simple act of being contiguous nearby to the cactus would induce a state of non-ordinary reality. But Mescalito did not have a rule, and for that reason, it was an ally. It was not an ally, even though it was capable of transporting a man outside the boundaries of ordinary reality. Not having a rule not only barred Mescalito from being used as an ally, but without a rule, it could not conceivably be manipulated, but also made it a power remarkably different from an ally. Again, Carlos is getting all technical here with this rule things, and does it really matter? No. You just connect to these things in different ways, and they have different values and different. It's like, man, all this stuff. It's fascinating. As a direct consequence of not having a rule, Mescalito was available to any man without the need of a long apprenticeship or the commitment to manipulatory techniques, as with an ally. And that's because the whole point and purpose of those allies was superiority paradigm, power nonsense, bully nonsense, dominance nonsense, yeah? Power over other people, dominance, in other words, yeah? Mescalito is about teaching you the right way to live. A very different intent behind it. Of course, the other things have a lot of rules. The universe is setting it up to say, if you want to engage in absolute foolish idiocy, it's going to make it difficult for you. You want to it's going to make it easier for you. Now, of course, Mescalito is a pretty harsh teacher. If you still have poor intent, you're going to suffer. Right? It's not going to let you get away with it. So there's a very good teacher in that sense, right? They don't let you get away with nonsense. But that's the difference. When you look at it via the lens of intent, you see the universe's intent. Of course, those things have rules and difficult and dangerous. Yeah, because it's like a fail-safe mechanism to prevent its abuse. Yeah, this is great. It's a wonderful system. Yeah. And because it was available without any training, Mescalito was said to be a protector. To be a protector meant that it was accessible to anyone. Yet Mescalito as a protector was not accessible to every man, and with some individuals it was not compatible. I disagree here. It is accessible to them. They are putting barriers to make it available to them, right? Because they're full of nonsense, have malintent and whatever, right? So to me, it's the individual that throws it out. According to Don Juan, such incompatibility was caused by the discrepancy between Mescalito's unbending morality and the individual's own questionable character. In other words, lack of impeccability. You need to be impeccable when you go to things. Even if you have no clue what impeccability is in action, you need to have impeccable motivation, impeccable intent. Right, Beena? Joseph is here. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yes.
And Norma says, maybe I wasn't a hippie. They seemed so mysterious, but assured of themselves. My daughter was a punk once. I was a teddy girl. I don't know what a teddy girl is. Can still hear you. Oh, thank you, Norma. And Joseph says, I don't call myself an intellectual. I prefer the term intelligentsia. Wow. Wow. As in, I consider myself a card-carrying member of the social democratic intelligentsia. Sorry if it's a little off topic. No. It's you see the word intellectual, and then by association, it led to intelligentsia. So it's totally connected. That's the magic of Moreness discussions. And I love this, where, something comes that stimulates you. In Way of Impeccability, I have a specific term for that. It's called come up takeaways. Things that come up in you and you share your takeaway on it. That's exactly what you just did there, Joseph. That's brilliant, man. It's awesome. Joseph, since you're here, right, I want to check. Did you mean to put the sad reaction to my reply to your comment about coarse and rough? It shows that there. And I was like, wow, I made Joseph sad with my reply, and I really didn't mean to. I was celebrating the message you sent me about coarse and rough and the explanation, because it was a real gift. That is exactly how I perceive it and how I perceived you to mean it as well. So we're talking about corroboration. So your message to me corroborated my internal perceptions of what I believed you were meaning, right? And that's a great gift. I seek those. I make a big point to it. It's a very big part of Way of Impeccability. So yeah, I didn't think you meant it. It was probably just accidental. It happens, but it was very, very interesting to me. Now also look at Moreness-Culture, right? In superiority paradigm, one just, oh, he didn't like what I had to say. Oh, well, whatever. But exactly. But because I'm paying attention to your intent and your intent to goodness, it would be very surprising if that was an intended reaction. So I trusted in your intent to goodness that it wasn't so. Not that it was negative to me. I mean, it may have made you sad for who knows what reason. But, in other words, I mean, it could have been angry face, for instance, or whatever. Also accidental. It's happened to me a couple of times too. But in our friends, we always assume the best and then we check. Yeah, if it doesn't make sense. This is part of Moreness-Culture. To not default to being upset when something happens and like, whatever. No, it's like, what did you mean? Right? I mean, even if, let's say, you had made it deliberately, I'll still check. And, oh, wow, okay, that's really interesting that you perceived it this way, whatever. And then we'll have a big discussion. We'll come to understanding. Agree, disagree, not a part of Moreness-Culture. We couldn't care two hoots about agree and disagree. Why? Because that's conflicting. And it makes things separate. Understanding merges it all together, and it transcends agree and disagree. So fantastic. Now I thought so, Joseph. That's nice to get the confirmation, right? And that's very important part of my impeccability. Says I cannot just believe it to be so, no matter how convincing the evidence is. I need that corroboration, that verification, right? Very, very important. So we always check. Now you cannot always check. You don't always have the opportunity to check. But if when I do have the opportunity, I always check. I'm building up a database that says to me in the times when I cannot check, I said, well, in the past, when I had such a perception, it always turned out to be so. And I have a pattern. Therefore, I can say with some scientific measure of probability that there's a high probability that I am, in this case, it's going to be the same, right? So I'm not saying I am correct, but I'm saying, well, based on the history here, it's like a 99% chance. Okay. I never assume it to be 100, but at least I can have some confidence in my perception for those times when I cannot check. And that's a great help. So checking leads to building a database that you can build your behavior on in the future, right? And your responses. It's very, very cool, very, very potent, very useful as well, right, Beena? You know, I don't mean to get kind of egg-headed about this, but understanding statistics, just basic statistics, probability, and what percentages mean, yes, and to understand the difference between quantity and percentage, yeah. So when we say, you know, oh, 1 million people, this and that, okay, let's say I said 1 million people, trying to think of something, believe in the fairy queen, right? Believe the fairy queen is an actual real entity. Yeah. So, wow, that's a lot. What is that in percentage terms? What is that? What is 1 million as a percentage of 8 billion? All right, you have to take out the children, so it's probably more like 6 billion or something. But you see my point? It's a very tiny percentage, even though it's a large number. We must understand this difference. Because if you say it, oh, 1 million people believe in the, so, oh, everybody's believing in the fairy queen, and this happens. I see it in the media all the time, and I see the reactions. Okay, not about fairy queen necessarily, but you need to understand the difference between the two, because we can very easily get confused between the two, right? Small percentages can be large in quantity, yes, and something can be a large percentage, but still be a small quantity, yeah. So, you know, 90% of the town of Backwater believe in violently overthrowing the government. How big is the town of Backwater? It's got 24 people living in it. You know, it's all one family, more or less. And you know, it's like a little mini cult or whatever. So it's meaningless. Eh? Really understanding statistics makes a very big difference to our perception as part of capital H hearing to hear accurately. Yeah, right, Beena? All right, I want to read a little bit more. I want to read this section with
Yes.
Mescalito.
Yes.
Don Juan's idea of the right way. Mescalito was also a teacher. It was supposed to exercise didactic functions, whatever that means. It was a director, a guide to proper behavior. And look at proper being improperly used. Isn't that fascinating? Almost always when the word proper is being used, it is being used improperly. I just love this conundrum, this oxymoron of it. Anyway, Mescalito taught the right way. Don Juan's idea of the right way seemed to be a sense of propriety, which consisted not of righteousness in terms of morality, but the tendency to simplify behavioral patterns in terms of the efficacy promoted by his teachings. Don Juan believed Mescalito taught simplification of behavior. Yes, he's teaching you to be impeccable, in other words, which is efficacy. Carlos is enamored with this word efficacy, right? It's about being energy efficient. That's it. Best use of energy. Remember yesterday when we were going through
Yes.
the list of things what impeccability means? That's it. Best use
Yes.
of energy, right? And whenever you hear me talking about the philosophies that I'm talking about, Moreness philosophy, appropriateness philosophy, the A+ philosophy, right? Impeccability as a philosophy, it's always about it being practical. I have somewhere in my bio, you know, people say I'm a philosopher. No, I'm not. I'm a practical philosopher, yes, but that makes me a practitioner, which is a whole different deal. A whole different deal. Anybody who lives their philosophy, anybody who lives their ideas and beliefs is a philosopher, right? Anybody has their own idea of it, right? Well, if you're making it yourself, which you need to, if you want to be real about your philosophy, you need to have it your own. So anyway, so everybody's a philosopher. But that's very important though, right? So Mescalito is teaching way of impeccability, in other words. Don Juan believed Mescalito taught simplification of behavior. Yes, things are very simple. Be appropriate. That's it. How much more simple do you want to get that? Be appropriate in all contexts. I love this, right? Mescalito was believed to be an entity. No, Mescalito is an entity. It's not believed to be such. And as such, it was purported, no, not purported, and as such, it has a definite form that was usually not constant or predictable. Yeah. So this thing of Mescalito's form, it's an abstract that has variation to it, but the abstract is the same. Very important to understand that also, right? This quality implied that Mescalito was perceived differently, not only by different people, but also by the same person on different occasions. Don Juan expressed this idea in terms of Mescalito's ability to adopt any conceivable form. For individuals with whom it was compatible, however, it adopted an unchanging form after they had partaken of it over a period of years. So the form that Mescalito does, in the beginning, it's kind of all over the show, but then it consolidates and it becomes consistent. So it's very interesting. The non-ordinary reality produced by Mescalito was utilizable, and in this respect was identical with that induced by an ally. The only difference, hello, who's that, Amy? Hello, Amy. The only difference was the rationale Don Juan used in his teachings for eliciting it. One was supposed to seek Mescalito's lessons on the right way. This is very important. I have mentioned this many times before. In our Dictionary of Power, Way of Impeccability, earnestness is a very, very potent abstract conception. It is an understanding that earnestness is not just a word or a term. Earnestness is a power. And when we are appropriately earnest, there's power to it. And this is what you need to engage with Mescalito, earnestness. You have earnestness, and that's it. You earnestly want to learn, no problem, right? Same with the universe, not just Mescalito, but the universe, right? So this is what Carlos is talking about, right? For individuals with whom it was compatible, however, it adopted an unchanged. Oh, the non. Where was I? To seek Mescalito's lessons in the right way. That's the right way to seek lessons, earnestly. Because if you're earnest, just think about it. When you ask an earnest question, what do you do to get to your question? You think it through. You think it through to the end. You keep going over it. And you answer all the preliminary questions. You answer as many as you can. Your earnest question is when you've come to a point in the question chain where you're stuck, where you can't go any further. That's your earnest question. See? So when you come earnestly and you say, I want to learn earnestly, that's typically your earnestness means that you've already made every effort to learn as much as you can. Now you're looking for that extra. Because any good teacher is not going to teach you what you can learn by yourself. That's not helping you. It's not helping you. It's indulging you. Yeah? So, yeah. All right. Right? To seek Mescalito's lessons on the right way and in the right way also. Both. Huh? The non-ordinary reality produced by Mescalito was utilizable, and in this respect was identical that. Oh, sorry, I read that right. The non-ordinary reality produced by Mescalito also had component elements, and here again the states of non-ordinary reality induced by Mescalito and by an ally were identical. In both, the characteristics of the component elements were stability, singularity, and lack of consensus. The other procedure Don Juan used to prepare the background for special consensus was to make me the co-participant in special states of ordinary reality. A special state of ordinary reality was a situation that could be described in terms of the properties of everyday life, except that it might have been impossible to obtain ordinary consensus on its component elements, anomalies, in other words. Don Juan prepared the background for the special consensus on the corroboration of the rule by giving special consensus on the component elements of the special states of ordinary reality. All right, man. Oh, there's still a lot here. All right, well, we'll have to continue tomorrow. I'll just read this last bit. These components, elements, were elements of everyday life whose existence could be confirmed only by Don Juan through special agreement. This was a supposition on my part. Yeah, you do lots of that. Because as co-participant in a special state of ordinary reality, I believe that only Don Juan, as the other co-participant, would know which component elements made up the special state of ordinary reality. So he's He's just saying that, when you're in a subjective bubble, you can't objectively trust what's happening because you just can be in a mutually reinforcing madness. And that happens. That happens very often, right? And maybe not madness, but you're just in a bubble and you're mutually reinforcing it, and you build up a reality that's only real for the two or the participants in that bubble. And it's very important, very important. All right, we'll stop here in my personal judgment. Yeah, very cool, very cool. I'm interested to know, Joseph, from your experience, how much of what Don Carlos is saying here about Mescalito, uh, if you have, I'm asking, I'm assuming you have some measure of ability to assess how much of what Carlos is saying about Mescalito overlaps with your own personal experience and with your experience of others potentially who've experienced Mescalito. That'd be interesting to hear. That'd be very interesting to hear. Beena, any questions, any comments, any thoughts?
I was just okay. First, I was disturbed by the screen. It was all black. I couldn't read with you along with you, so that was something. But other than that what you were sharing about the hippies movement, and when Norma was saying about the flower power, the term was, of course, called a soft power. We have the term here, uh, which is very, very okay. What is this?
For Duskatari.
Oh,
Oh, she wants
Dushkatari?
coffee too. Yeah, Duskatari. She said, I want coffee too. There you go,
Okay.
Duskatari. Hello,
Oh,
Duskatari. Hello,
yes.
Lubna. And hello, Il Sogno de Chiara. I hope I'm
Oh,
pronouncing it well. Nice to see you back again. Nice to see you back again.
oh,
Okay.
yes.
Go ahead, Bina.
Yes. So, yes. And we have, okay, I don't know about the flower power. I heard about it, or maybe read it somewhere, but not in detail. But I have a concept from Way of Impeccability, soft power, which is, of course, I don't know that they are same or not. Having that
Similar.
you are not dictating anything, but you are just
Yes.
exercising your own
Yes.
authority, which
Correct.
makes it
Correct.
like, okay,
Correct.
when you have this clarity, then you don't need to exaggerate.
Yeah.
The,
Exactly.
the exaggeration
Exactly.
comes, yes, or the power, or um,
Exactly.
the rigidness comes from that when you don't feel that trust inside you, within yourself. When you have
Yeah.
that, then you don't need to prove it. You don't need to show it off. You just practice it. You just be, and that's why that it's a very precise term for soft power. That you are
Yes.
aware, and you don't need to exaggerate. You don't need to
Yes.
exert for
Yes.
that. You don't need
Yes.
to be rigid about that. You just
Exactly.
be yourself, and this is very zen. Okay, again,
Oh yeah.
zen is a term I'm just using. I'm not
Yeah.
into that, but
Yeah.
it's still okay,
Yeah.
and it's very spiritual also. So thank
Oh
you
yeah.
so much
Oh
for
yeah.
sharing about that.
Oh yeah. All right. So on the soft power and regular power, let's look at the difference. When I'm sharing my moreness, and it is evidence that there is moreness, right? That I've got a skill, I've got an ability, I've got joy in me, I've got perceptual abilities, discernment, expression, whatever it is, doesn't matter. When I'm sharing it simply for the joy of sharing it, I am exercising soft power. I'm demonstrating that I have something that is valuable, useful, and therefore in some way power. Yeah.
Mm.
Whether it be an ability to long jump or ability to sing or ability to express, ability to think, ability to write, but whatever it is, right? Some kind of thing. Or I could just be expressing it as a beingness, as a way of being, right? But the difference is it is contained within me. There's no
Mm.
relativity involved, no comparison involved. My sharing of my moreness, my power, in other words, it doesn't rely on something else being less. Superiority
Yes.
paradigm power, that's the definition of it. It is more than something else. It's always defined relatively. So my power is at the expense of something else. This is
Mm.
inherent in superiority paradigm culture. And that's a big difference, right? This is why it's soft power. Hard power, it's It's at the expense of somebody else. Not nice. Not nice. This whole winning thing. You're making everybody else losers. If you're the ultimate winner, you're going to live in a world of losers. Think about that. If you're the
Say it
ultimate
again,
winner,
please.
if you are the ultimate winner in the whole entire world, you're going to live in a world of losers.
Yes.
And is that what you want? Everybody who's so hung
No.
up on winning, 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 do you want to live in a world full of losers?
No.
Stupid, 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 mindless, idiotic superiority paradigm belief system that people follow blindly. And this is the power of simply thinking things past step one. Just think one step, for heaven's sake. Like, duh, if I'm winning, I'm making losers. Just duh. It's so powerful. We don't think, we just follow. We just follow because we've been taught this. Don't be a blind, I don't know what, but don't just blindly follow and what are the lemmings? Don't be a lemming. Follow the crowd and you run off the cliff, right? No, 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 not good, not good, not good, not good in the least. It's very important, this, right? Very important. This. Think about things a little bit, people. Do you really want what you think you want? Do you really want what you think you want? You think you want to be win, 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 but it's hollow. It's false. It's a square circle. Can't exist. Can't exist. Right? I can't even make a square circle. Yeah, it's just an idea.
Just an idea.
Can't do it. Yeah. That was such a fascinating study, that, right?
Yes.
I tried to look it up, Beena, and I couldn't find it, unfortunately, because it's too far back. It's before internet days, That was never saved. I mean, probably some science journal, it's there somewhere. But, yeah. All right, brilliant. Anything more you wanted to share, Beena?
No, I was just keen about this. That was really interesting for me. Again, sometimes I feel a bit kind of like deprived of or um, I don't know that. Okay, you can say a bit isolated. I mean, it's not negative.
Oh,
I'm not finding any
yes,
appropriate terms for that.
yes.
Because way of impeccability and the moreness understanding. Okay, I'm in the process again. I'm not saying as a definite way, but it is just in the process. Gives you so much that nothing actually surprises you.
Yeah.
Yes, excitement because of new learning and understanding, and of course. But even like, okay, when I was reading with Syl, we were doing the capital R reading of Sophie's World.
Oh, yeah.
I was so much into that, which was like, oh wow, okay, that was the first time I was becoming aware of so many things. But even that was not something like end of the world for me.
It wasn't new. It wasn't new.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, the words or the articulation could be new, of course, can be new anytime with different people when they are sharing. The basic idea, once you got some ideas from way of impeccability and it gets sets into your mind and heart, and then you will not really feel shocked by that. Okay. You always enjoy moreness. Yes, definitely. Always enjoy that, but not get shocked by that. Oh, this is something coming like out of nowhere and at the end of the world type of thing, because it gives you that trust, that self-trust, and of course the openness, which never actually surprises you, which is so profound for me. And it makes you open to learn new things also at the same time. So I need a bit more precise terminology for that. But what I'm trying to share is that it's a very very different journey, because or everything turns unknown into moreness for you. And then you will get
Exactly.
overwhelmed by that.
Exactly. Exactly. And also, Beena, you are shifting from the value of surprise and newness into appreciation and application, recognition,
Yes.
resonance.
Yes.
Now, I have to share, Beena, book 1 is to me, it's like a gateway from the universe. It's like a test. There are these little nuggets of value, and those nuggets, it's not that much, but it's enough to if you are sincere, you say, I want more of that, and therefore you read book 2. And book 2 rewards you like crazy, and book 3, and so on, right? So just stick there, especially the structural analysis. This is like really, really like a test. Can you get through this and go through it, right? Because if you're truly hungry, you'll put up with a lot to get what you need. Yes. So we'll get to that moreness, and there will be surprise. I promise you, there will be surprise. It's coming. It's coming. No worries.
This is, I'm not against, or I'm not negating this.
No, I know,
But I'm saying that there's no overwhelmness from that. Like, okay, yes,
correct,
because
correct,
because
correct.
that openness, that deliberately making yourself available for the newness and the moreness, just take away that overwhelmness. So that is okay. Let's put it that way, because this is what I was trying to share. That because now, yes, things can be like completely out of my awareness, but they will not be overwhelming for me.
Yes. And this is because you've grown so much, Beena.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
It's familiarity. It's a powerful thing. When we become familiar with moreness, we can deal with it. We don't get overwhelmed. That's incredible. Incredible. And then you can really connect and utilize the magic. When you get overwhelmed, you lose so much, because when you're overwhelmed, you shut down, right? And you only connect with a tiny little part of you. Yeah, so it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. All right, Norma, Joseph, any comments? Any questions? No. We haven't seen for a long time. Najjar, I'm trying to remember his first name now. Go on.
Ramzi Najjar.
Ramzi, yes, Ramzi Najjar. Right. So, wonder what's happening with him. All right, we leave it there for today. Yes, Beena?
Yes. Right.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And if you are watching this recorded, we do see a lot of views there, of course, and also in the group. But if you are by chance or deliberately, if you are choosing to watch us and find some value, do click like, and please leave a comment there, because we are very keen to receive comments. Of course, we do have very, very full and very very good conversation, and of course connectivity with Norma and Joseph, wonderful people. But we are keen for more. Like always, there is always more. And your participation will be highly appreciated, because we love to appreciate people. And we love to be appreciated also. We are providing some value, and you agree with that? Please do appreciate.
We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your heart.
Yes.
We want to hear your doubts. We want to hear your doubts, your questions.
Yes. Yes.
So,
and again, as something I always try to emphasize, that what Syl shares and what Way of Impeccability and Moreness is, on surface, it could be, because of its sophistication, it might get a perception that, oh, this is something very out of my world. This is not my league. Oh, this is something like, okay, too big for me, too heavy, too deep for me. I am right here an example for that it's not, and it can never be too big, too deep, or too heavy for anyone who has a willingness to learn and grow. Exactly. No, it is not going to be. Exactly. Everything will be so fun and joyful, and also it is very practically implementable in every aspect of your life, from your relationships, from your daily mundane life to your front time. Every aspect will become more after that.
Right. So any culture you go to, there's a language that goes along with that culture. It's very hard to connect to a culture that without language. Yes, it's possible, of course, but it's very difficult. Yeah.
Yes.
So language is a key core component of a culture. Beena and I are sharing Moreness-Culture. Inherent to Moreness-Culture is the language of conceptionality, the language that is the prime language of Moreness culture. And this language transcends all of our regular languages. Doesn't matter what you're speaking, whether you're speaking Navajo or Urdu or Mandarin or whatever, doesn't matter. Yes, doesn't matter. Because conceptions, abstract conceptions, transcend all languages. Yes, they aren't culture specific. Impeccability, love, abstract, moreness, right? This is it. These are concepts that exist in any language. Yes. And when you start to use the language of conceptionality, Moreness culture comes along with it. And what I'm making the point here is overwhelm. When you first go to another country and you go in and you want to assimilate, you want to live in the country and understand the culture, you have to learn the language. You want to go to Japan and really absorb Japanese culture, you really need to understand those words which we're seeing them, right? Ikigai and all these terms that have become popular. I forget the term with the fixing of the pottery, right? With the gold in it and all that, right? And these have become part of English now. And that's, but you need to know those terms to really understand the culture, right? Like German, Schadenfreude and all this stuff, right? Many things like that. And the magic of this is the analogy that I'm making is when you're going to another place and you're learning a language, you learn it basically one word at a time. Yeah. Now,
Yes.
now, in regular language, there's a lot of remembering of words. In the language of conceptionality, not so much. Why? Because the conceptions are all linked. They all connect. So when you understand, you start off with just the conception of appropriateness. When you really start to think about it and you figure it out for yourself, what it is, because you can, you understand, well, in order to understand appropriateness, you have to understand context and goal and motivation and intent. What do you mean goal and motivation and intent? I know goal and motivation. I don't exactly know. Okay, well, you start to think about what's the difference with goal and motivation and intent. And now you start to figure out what intent is. And then you get into what intent is. And from there, you start thinking about other things that go with intent, right? What is the difference in intent and intention? Wow. You see what I mean? It starts to follow on and they're all connected. And then intent comes back around and you got, well, you need to be impeccable with your intent. Or you need to have impeccability. You want to have clarity. It all connects. It all connects, right? And that makes the language of conceptionality not only so potent, but a lot easier to learn. And what makes it even better is that many of these terms are already known to you, but we just haven't thought it through to the maximum, like intent and intention. When you think about it, oh, yes, I see now what you mean. Yeah, because, well, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Therefore, intentions don't really mean much. But intent, that's when you're really serious. Okay, all right, I see the difference now. It's kind of self-evident, right? And the same thing with appropriateness. When you actually think about it, you understand the difference between proper and appropriateness, right? I mean, how is many of the things that are taught to be proper behavior, like it's proper for men to have short hair? Really? This comes from Paul in the New Testament, thousands of years ago. Like really, he said that, right? Men must have short hair, women long hair. That's it. And it's proper to wear a hat to church. That's why you'll still see many Christian things, right? That's it. All women go to church and wear a hat because Paul said so. Proper. It's somebody's idea of what is appropriate, not necessarily appropriate, right? Not inherently appropriate, just somebody's idea. So appropriateness all depends what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to achieve, and in which circumstances, which situation. So it's a sophistication. Proper is very primitive, really. Anyway, my point is, when learning this, and what Beena was saying, if you come to and you listen to our sharing, it can seem overwhelming because we're talking about a lot of stuff, but learn it one conception at a time. Just take one. And that will lead you to others, and this will lead you to more. And next thing you know you'll be connecting to all of it. Right? That's the key. That's the key. Learn the language of conceptionality. Right, Beena?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Syl, for explaining this. This is too brilliant. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We will see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. All right, bye-bye, Norma. Bye-bye, Joseph. See you guys tomorrow. See you guys tomorrow.
Yes, see, that's true.
Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. Bye-bye, Norma.
Bye for now.
All right, bye-bye, everybody. And